Jake here for American Trucks, and today I'm taking a look at this J&L 3.0 oil separator in satin for the 2019 and newer 5.7 liter Ram 1500s. If you're in it for the long haul with your Ram, especially if you've already got or you're planning to do some additional engine modifications, then something like this oil separator from J&L should definitely be on the short list of stuff to get. This is a highly effective, easy modification that's going to appeal to the Ram owner who's going to be putting some miles on their truck and wants to focus on keeping it trucking for a long time to come. Now, oil separators are an easy and effective modification that have sort of a unique place in the market. Unlike most aftermarket parts that can easily be grouped into power, handling, or styling modifications, oil separators are really more of something that is meant to help with the longevity and reliability of your engine. Now, if you're not familiar with these, oil separators attach to the PCV or positive crankcase ventilation system of your engine. That PCV system helps to regulate pressure within the bottom end or the crankcase by venting that pressure back up through the intake. In doing this, however, oil residue sometimes gets caught up in those vapors and it can end up getting the top end of your engine a little bit dirty. And that's where the oil separator comes in. So the idea is that this will strain out excess oil that gets caught up in those vapors that are being recirculated and trap them in this little container right here. Then you just go ahead and spin this off and you can dump out the excess oil. This is especially helpful in modern engines with direct fuel injection, since those don't have fuel flowing through the intake manifold or over the intake valves to help keep them clean. So over time, any excess oil that comes through those vapors can tend to build up on the intakes and the valves and gum things up. So that's why on newer vehicles, you'll sometimes see a puff of black smoke when the driver really puts their foot down. Now, all of that can lead to increased engine wear and thus higher repair bills for you. So that's where the oil separator comes in. Like I said, this is gonna route those vapors coming from the bottom of your engine through here, and this is essentially just a filter. Now, J&L has designed this in-house, and this is the third iteration actually, and it's gonna trap those fine oil vapors in a really tight mesh. And then once enough particles build up, they're gonna fall through this 1/2 inch thick 1/16 inch aluminum honeycomb filter that you can see right here. They then fall down and they're trapped in this little 3-ounce can, which you can easily remove to clean and empty. And then the air is going to continue to flow through uninterrupted, keeping the pressure stabilized, making your engine work as it should, and the excess oil will stay behind. Now, J&L has done a really good job with this in my opinion. It's compact, it's well built, and it feels like a solid piece. Now, the whole thing is milled from solid billet aluminum, and the base of the tank has this knurled texture on it, so it's also really easy to grip and remove, especially when it's in the engine bay. There's also a thick O-ring at the top here to prevent spillage, and they include these really durable thick lines with quick disconnects already on the end. So this is really simple to install. The whole thing is anodized this nice silver color as well, so it's gonna look good and clean and add a little pop of color to your engine bay, and it's also gonna stand the test of time. Now, 3 ounces here sounds like a pretty small amount, and it is. However, most engines are only gonna produce about 1 ounce of oil every 1,000 miles, and your mileage might vary a little bit there. J&L recommends that you check the canister every 500 to 1,000 miles or so when you first install it to get a good idea of when it needs to be serviced. However, your engine may not produce as much oil vapor, so you might be able to let this go a little bit longer. But if you live in a cold climate, it's likely that you're going to need to check it more often, since cold weather means that there's going to be more condensation, thus more vapors, and thus more oil left behind. Now, overall, this is a really simple, really easy mod to get done on your Ram. It's going to keep the top end of your engine cleaner, which means it's going to run better for longer. So if you're planning on keeping your truck around for a while, it's absolutely worth your while to pick one of these up. Now, there are a lot of oil separators out on the market, but going with the J&L is a great option because of the construction we talked about, the fact that it has that proprietary filtering system, and of course, the price. Coming in around $200, this one falls towards the lower middle part of the category when it comes to oil separators, so it's a good value for your money. You could easily spend more here, but you're still getting a really high quality item here, and for the price, even if it saves you on just one repair bill, it's absolutely worth it. Figure it this way. Most dealerships or shops are going to charge more than double the price of this little guy for a routine intake valve cleaning. So if you can buy this and avoid having to do that service as often, I'd call that one a win. Now, I mentioned earlier, this is a pretty easy install, and that's absolutely true. This is gonna get a 1 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and it should only take you about 10 minutes to get it set up. You're gonna go ahead and mount that bracket, bolt this right onto the top of the separator here, attach your hoses, and then screw on your canister, and that's it. Just make sure you follow those cleaning intervals. And now let's throw it over to one of our AT customers who's gonna show you the process for getting this installed on your Ram.
And then here's the tools I'll be using. I'm using a socket wrench, I'm using an extension. It's not really necessary, but just in case, I'm using an extension with a 10mm socket, Phillips screwdriver, and pliers. So the first part of the installation is I'm going to use the socket wrench to remove the engine cover. Okay, so first I'm going to remove the engine cover. The engine cover is secured in the front by these 2 screws. So there's a screw right here, and then there's a screw along the other side here as well. That's within this insert. You remove these using the 10mm socket, and then in the back is just secured by 2 grommets. So it just pull right out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this engine cover. I'm going to loosen these 2 screws. So this is the first screw. Second screw just pops up. Slide right out. So you just set that right to the side for now. Okay, so next we're gonna remove the plastic portion of the PCV line that goes along the side of the engine there. So it has 2 connections. The first connection is up top right here. So leaving this rubber grommet here, I'll just pop that plastic line out. There's a clip that's right here that's mounted to this line. You want to make sure to unclip this first. You don't want to accidentally pull something out that you might need. So there's like a little finger clip to this. So you unclip that. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So you unclip that, and then just remove that from the line. And then the second portion of the line is right down here at the bottom. Just pull it out as well. Okay, so next we're gonna install the mounting bracket into the top of the unit. So the mounting bracket, the logo should line up. So you see how the logo is this side up, they both should line up on top of each other for the mounting bracket, and the 2 screws secure the bracket there inside of those 2 holes. And then you just tighten the 2 screws using a Phillips screwdriver. All right, so as far as the hose connections are concerned, the hose that has the right angle is going to go further towards the back of the engine, and then the hose that has the straight connector is going closest towards the front. So let's go ahead and install that. So we see earlier, we still have that rubber grommet from that PCV pipe that we removed earlier. So the right angle one is going right back into that line. That just fits in like so. And then the straight one is going to connect here to the other part that we removed earlier. All right, and that just goes in there. So we'll make sure it's nice and snug on both. And then this part of the mounting bracket here is going to go right between the mounting for the engine cover and where the engine cover actually secures at. So let's go ahead and reinstall the engine cover. So you'll notice on the rear of the engine cover, there are 2 pins. Those 2 pins go into those 2 grommet holes that's back there on the top of the engine. So we got to make sure we line this up so that these 2 pins stick into that grommet hole. All right, so I felt that go in. Now our hose is lining up. So I'm gonna install this hole first. Actually, I take that back. I'm gonna install the other hole first because I need to make sure that the oil separator is properly mounted. So where the bracket for the oil separator is, that we installed earlier, we want that bracket to go right in between this mounting for the oil cover. I'm sorry, for the engine cover. Get your screw in there. You can kind of feel where the screw is at. All right, that's in there. So I'm going to use my socket to go ahead and secure that down. Okay, nice and snug. Put the other screw in. Tighten this up. All right, and that completes the installation.
That's going to do it for our review and install of the J&L 3.0 oil separator for the 2019 and newer 5.7 liter Ram 1500s. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, for all things Ram, be sure to stick with us right here at AmericanTrucks.com.